Hoje no canal Mulheres de Impacto, Histórias Reais, eu irei entrevistar a professora Dorie Clark, que hoje está na Duke University. Ela é autora de grandes best-sellers e é uma keynote speaker que trabalha em prol de divulgar e falar sobre empreendedorismo. Ela empodera pessoas, ela encoraja pessoas a se reinventar, a descobrir-se, a descobrir seus talentos e acreditar em si mesmo.
Hello.
Hi, Professor Dorie Clark.
Oh, thank you so much. Is Alethea the right way to pronounce your name?
It's Aletheia.
Aletheia. Thank you so much. That's great.
Oh, Professor. I can't believe, I can't believe. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to get to speak with you. You're in Brazil, correct? Are you in Sao Paulo or Rio, or where are you in Brazil?
Yeah, I'm in the central, close to Brasilia, the capital of Brazil.
Excellent.
Yeah, and in a state called the Goiás.
Fantastic. I have not spent as much time in Brazil as I would like, although I have been there. I've been, briefly to both Rio and Sao Paulo. And then I taught briefly, I did a workshop at Fundação Dom Cabral in Belo Horizonte. So that was really fun.
It's so amazing. Professor, so let's talk, no?
Let's do it. Thank you very much. Well, I'm delighted to have the chance to speak with you, Aletheia.
Oh, it's such a great pleasure having you here on our channel and meeting you. It's a dream that came true. As I told you, I was so special news when I got John's email that I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And I just follow your tips of try this from your book, Reinventing You, and it worked.
Fantastic.
Professor Dorie Clark, please introduce yourself to our audience. I cannot say everything you do, and you can talk if you want.
Sure, absolutely. So, hi, audience. I'm Dorie Clark, and I'm so happy to be here. My basic deal, I write business and career books, and since we're doing this at home, I have props. My first one was Reinventing You, about professional reinvention. I wrote Stand Out, which is about how to become a recognized expert in your field. And then my most recent is called Entrepreneurial You, which is about how to create multiple streams of income in your business. And when I'm not doing that, I teach for Duke and Columbia. I do a lot of work with online courses, and I do coaching and executive coaching and consulting. But mostly I really try to help people figure out both for themselves and with their companies, how to get heard in a crowded and noisy world.
It's much more than this, for sure. Okay, let's. I will introduce our project to you. Human of Impact is an extension project we have here at Federal University of Goiás. It's a kind of project with long-term intentions. Started in this year. And we focus on the knowledge and learning obtained from the life history and the work experience of our guests, like you, and which will serve as an inspiration for other women, in addition to help them find opportunities and overcome difficulties and challenges. So we also offer courses and workshops to teach them about social entrepreneurship, microfinance, and marketing that help these women to build their own path. But it's not a trivial and easy task in Brazil. We do not receive any financial support from the government, and we face a lot of challenges to convince the private sector as well. However, at least we learn a lot from the whole process. So I suppose that you face some challenge during your own path and have to reinventing you. And how did you figure out the right time to turn on the table? And what was the most difficult achievement to reach?
Oh my goodness. Well, you're certainly right. Over the years, I faced a number of different setbacks. An early one for me, which in many ways was the genesis for my book Reinventing You, was that I had started my career as a political journalist, and I ended up getting laid off from my job and had to find a way quickly to reinvent myself. And so I went to work in politics and became a spokesperson on multiple political campaigns, all of which lost. And so I had to reinvent myself again. And then finally, I became a nonprofit executive director, and I continued to reinvent myself from there. But that was actually the first time that I chose to reinvent myself rather than being forced to do it. And so starting from 2006, that was when I began my business, doing consulting and coaching and the constellation of other activities since then. And for me, the transition was that in running the nonprofit, I realized, oh, running this nonprofit is basically running my own business. And then I thought, wait, I could actually run my own business. So I started to do that. So there were a lot of transitions and a lot of reinventions that I went through personally, in addition, of course, to the stories of the people that I tell in the book. But in terms of what was most difficult, I would say one of the hardest things was in making the transition. We often have to really get to know dramatically different audiences of people. Coming into starting my own business, I knew that what I wanted to do was speak to a corporate audience and to be able to tap into the business market. But I had no experience whatsoever with it. I knew journalists and I knew people in government, and it's not always, the same people who work in business. So I really had to, in a very concerted way, much more deliberately than most people do with their networks, I had to really think about the question: how can I get to know people in a new realm, and how can I establish credibility in that new realm? And so it was the process of answering that question, which I needed to do in order to build my business, that I think helped give me the expertise necessary to do some of the work that I do now, which is advising other people on how they can actually build up their credibility in new marketplaces as well.
Oh, when I follow you, I can see the comments, and oh, Dorie, you changed my life. Oh, Dorie, you break out all my a kind of beliefs, and it's so how can a woman do that? Oh, she can. She's amazing. Yeah, she influenced a lot of people around the world. It's good. Oh my gosh.
That's very kind. Thank you.
In your books and in your TEDs, you always deliver your message through and breakout history of someone. Yeah, we can see all the time you do that. And I have 3 questions for you. First, how did you build this idea? Oh no. Second, how did you feel when you failed? And how did you feel when your own breakout history came to light?
All right. Excellent questions. Let me dive in and try to answer it, and feel free to ask any clarifying questions if you'd like. So in terms of how I typically structure my books, you're exactly right. I typically interview different people who've experienced things and use that as the lever to share the points. And that actually comes directly out of my background as a journalist. That was my initial training. And so I think in some ways what feels most comfortable to me in sharing stories is to find someone who exemplifies that point And sometimes you have the point in mind first and you find the person. But even more frequently, sometimes you just have a person in mind who is doing something interesting. And so you interview them to learn what they're doing. And that's how you're able to extract out the points. And so I often build my books in that capacity, that I find people who are just doing interesting things. And I say, well, I need to learn a little bit more about what their approach is, or what they've done. And then I use that as the scaffolding to assemble the book. In terms of how I feel about failure and sort of having gone through different things, I actually have a new book that is coming out in September called The Long Game: How to Be a Long-Term Thinker in a Short-Term World. And I have a whole chapter in there about failure specifically, because it's something that, of course, I mean, nobody loves it. It can be very traumatizing. But I've spent a lot of time thinking about it, because I think one thing that I've learned is that if we get too wedded to a particular path, failure can be very, very traumatizing. Because if you have built up a belief in your mind that there is only one thing you want and there's only one way to reach it, if that doesn't work, well, then, the world has ended. And so instead, I try to encourage people to hold fast to their goal, to the outcome that they want, but to recognize that there are a lot of different possible paths to get to it. And as long as we hold everything lightly enough to treat it as an experiment, to actually just say, well, this might work. Let's see if this works. And if it doesn't, we'll do something else. Then I think it is a lot easier, and you're able to take that experimental mindset and say, oh, this isn't a referendum on me as a human being. This is just me as a scientist seeing what works and what doesn't, and we'll get there eventually. And so I actually tell the story in The Long Game about the goals that I set for myself in 2019. And I had 5 big goals, 5 big stretch goals for myself professionally. And out of these 5, throughout the course of the year, 4 of them just completely went up in flames. 4 of them did not work out at all. It was very embarrassing. And then finally, the fifth goal, literally toward the end of the year, it was late November. That one happened. That one came true. But all of the other ones up until then, it was just like nothing was working. And so no matter where you are in your career, whether you're, just starting out, or whether, you've been doing it for quite a while, as I have now, you still have runs of setbacks like that sometimes.
Oh, very, very interesting. And why you didn't give up? When you failed?
I mean, the reason I would say that I didn't give up is, I think a problem that a lot of people have is they are far too willing to cede control to other people and to assume that other people know what they're talking about. Because if it were true that the other people around you really did know what they were talking about, and they said, gosh, Dorie, we've evaluated things and you're just not good, well then, okay, maybe I'd have to take that seriously. But the truth is, most of the people out there, they have no idea. They have no clue. They're not better than you. They're just in a certain position. And it does not mean that they are, that we should give them the power to render judgment on who you are and what you're capable of. They might think they have special skills. Maybe they do, but you know what? They also have biases. They have preferences. You might be great. You might be a great impressionist painter, but if someone says, I hate impressionism, I like abstract expressionism, well, then, they're going to turn down Monet every time. So we just have to understand that we cannot afford to have an external locus of control. We cannot afford to let other people tell us if we're good enough or not. I mean, I think this is really like overcoming a lot of programming from when we're little kids. You have to just have a healthy degree of saying, I don't have a problem. You have a problem, F you, and just keep going.
Oh, it's awesome. Oh my gosh. what kind of message we can learn of all these things you said now. It's very interesting. I promise I will ask the last question, the last. And and what is, I know you are very busy person. Oh, and what is your final message to our audience?
Oh my goodness. Well, something that has certainly been on my mind a lot recently, because I'm getting ready for this big book launch for the long game, is thinking through the question of what it does mean to be a long-term thinker in a short-term world. I think most of us can probably agree that all of the pressure around us really is toward the short term. I mean, anybody who spends time on social media and they see all the comparison and, oh, this one got this job and this one got this promotion and this one, made $1 million. And there's often a lot of voices in our heads about like, well, why didn't I do that? Or what do they know that I don't? Or what am I doing wrong? And it can be very damaging, because also, it is true that some of the most important contributions that we can make are things that actually just do take a long time. It takes a long time to build a body of work that you can be proud of. And so if we have in our heads that it should be showing a result within a month, and it doesn't show a result within a month, then, we're probably going to give up, and we're probably going to give up too soon. And I think that is a real loss. And so what we need to be doing instead is developing what I like to call strategic patience. And that is not kind of classic, patience, like, oh, just be patient. Things will happen. I mean, that's not very useful. That's just like magical thinking. But if you have strategic patience, where you are periodically analyzing and reanalyzing, if you're saying, you know what, I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to make a bet, and I'm going to do this for 6 months, and then I'm going to analyze it, and I'm going to decide if I'm going to do it for another 6 months. And you keep pressing forward. That is what enables you to actually build up enough effort, enough work, so that you actually can get traction and you actually can get the results and the success that you want. I think a lot of that has been lost in our contemporary discourse, and I hope that the long game can potentially help reintroduce that.
Professor, again, thank you for spending your time with us. And your own example is completely, we can see you support women a lot of time, and you see, we can see this in your messaging, in your books, in your example around the world. So please, oh, I have to let you know, I'm very, very, very grateful to have you here. Okay, thank you so much.
Alitea, thank you so much. It's wonderful to get to speak with you. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I'll just mention, for anyone that wants to learn more about the new book, you can check it out and learn more at dorieclark.com/longgame.
Oh, for sure. I will, oh my gosh, how do you say this in English? Oh, I will
include the link.
Yeah, include the link.
Great, thank you.
I will include the link in our channel, not just in the new book, but the other one as well.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.